I want to thank you all for sticking with us this afternoon for our next panel, our next topic, which is about making progress happen. All of us are working very hard every day in our states to spur economic growth and to build lasting career pathways that put more people to work in good-paying jobs. It's more important than ever that we work together to find new ways to build a steady pipeline for the future, using economic development models, infrastructure projects, and talented, well-trained, and well-skilled workers. The governors obviously play a key role in these efforts. Many of the governors here today have shown tremendous leadership in this area, and it's at the state level that bold ideas are being developed and real solutions are being forged. So to lead today's next panel, it is my privilege to introduce the Vice Chair of the NGA, the Governor of the great state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, who will tell us a little bit about the progress he's making in New York and then lead the next panel discussion. Please welcome Governor Cuomo.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Before I get started, let's give a great round of applause to our great chairman of the NGA, Governor Hogan. Governor Hogan, we all thank you for your professionalism, your collegiality, your cooperation, and your leadership. Another round of applause for Governor Hogan, please. It's my pleasure to be here today to open the second plenary session, and let me tie the discussion of this session into the last one on global and domestic infrastructure. To begin with, if we had a magic wand, we should wave it and eliminate the word infrastructure from the vocabulary. It is just not an attractive word, let's be honest. Maybe if we come up with a more attractive word, we could actually entice the federal government to re-enter the field. It sounds like a task for a new NGA subcommittee. But the simple truth is that we do need the federal government to be a full partner if we're going to resolve this crisis. And it is a crisis. States simply don't have the financial luxury of filling the void, no matter how aggressive, no matter how creative states are. This is not a partisan complaint, because the past 5 presidents, Democrats and Republicans, all proclaimed infrastructure development as a national priority, and very little progress has been made. Our national infrastructure funding deficit is estimated to be $1.5 trillion by 2025. European countries, on average, spend about 5% of their GDP on infrastructure. Our federal government spends less than half that. In 1977, Washington paid 38% of the cost of building our nation's infrastructure. Today, that share is down to 25%. And the ever-increasing balance falls to state and local government. In the meantime, states do what we can, and states do what we must. We know that what we build, what we modernize, is the legacy that we leave behind. Given a state's limited resources, a state development strategy must be targeted and have a direct connection to a return on the state's investment. They must be catalytic to an economic development plan. Either the project itself must be essentially self-financing, or the project must be an integral part of a targeted economic development strategy that will pay dividends. In New York, we analyze our development projects in 2 tiers. First, necessary and essential modernization of our transportation systems. And second, regional economic development and investments. First, global competition demands a modern transportation network, period. Either grow or be left behind. In 2014, then Vice President Joe Biden said, basic quote, "If you landed in New York at LaGuardia Airport and you were blindfolded, you would think that you landed in a third world country." Dramatic quote. Now, all the New York politicians criticized the vice president for slandering a New York airport. we can be a little defensive as a group in New York. But I actually went the other way. And I said, no, the vice president was right. Let's recognize the truth. My state, every state, needs a modern airport to enter the global economic competition. Look at what they're building around the world. And then look at what we're doing here in the great United States of America. If we want to keep pace with the rest of the world, we have to update our transportation network. And if the federal government won't do it, the states must do it as a basic matter of economic survival. Now, states getting into this business bring significant financial challenges for a state as well as a highly specialized expertise. States don't have the funds to do it without leveraging public-private sector partnerships, and that's the discussion we had on P3s. But it's truly the only vehicle to get the amount of funding a state would need to make a real difference. On airports, for example, what that meant for us in New York was the private leasing of the terminal space at airports at the beginning of our construction projects to pay the cost of the construction. We're building a new LaGuardia Airport, which is going to be the first new airport in the United States since the Denver airport opened in 1995. It's an $8 billion project, with about 1/3 coming from government, 2/3 being paid from private sources. To actually build it, we have adopted the design-build method. The state will master plan the project, but we then bid out the design and the construction to a private company with a set completion date, an incentive for early delivery, and a penalty for late delivery. The old adage, know what you don't know, and government does not know how to build. New York recently completed the largest infrastructure project in the United States, a bridge across the Hudson River with a price tag of $4 billion. It was completed on time and after many sleepless nights on budget. It took about 4 years. Building public confidence in government's capacity to actually complete these big projects is essential if we are to have the political will to move forward on an ambitious building agenda. We want the federal government to know that the people of this nation want this kind of leadership and participation. That means the people of this nation need to know that if we embark on this venture, we can get it done, and we will get it done, and it will happen efficiently and effectively. We're now in the middle of the largest building program in New York State's history, $275 billion in infrastructure. We're rebuilding our airports, the LaGuardia, JFK, our regional airports in upstate New York, train stations, mass transit, roads, bridges statewide. All projects incorporate resiliency. We are ensuring 100% statewide broadband and cell service as basic economic necessities to attract business to the rural parts of our state. But these development projects are basically essential for economic survival. And if the federal government will not step up and fund them, then the state must. At the same time, we have a second level of construction and investment, which are basically regional development programs, where we identify the economic potential within a discrete region of the state that needs help. We invest in those projects necessary to bring that economy up in that region. And those projects are tailored specifically to those regions. For example, northern New York, we have the Adirondacks. Their economy is basically based on tourism, outdoor recreation. So there, we're building new lifts, new lodges, new attractions, new roads, new hotels. Long Island is a different region of the state, and we're building an economy based on our concentration of academic institutions and biotech development. We're trying to steal a page from North Carolina and have our own research triangle on Long Island, and we're financing laboratories and schools and new rail transportation. Syracuse, in the central part of the state, we're developing a cluster economy on unmanned vehicles and drones, and we just built a 50-mile drone testing area, one of the largest in the country. But these regional economic development plans are originated by business leaders in the region working with local elected officials, and the state comes in to provide the investment capital. So far, we've spent about $25 billion on these regional economic development projects, $18 billion from the private sector, $7 billion from the state. But the point is, again, regional development that grows the economy, because we need the economy to grow to pay for the capital investment that the state made and further those economic advancements. In closing, my last point is that while we all hope for an active federal partner, the reality is that after such a long delay, I think the best course forward is for the states to hope for the best and plan for the worst. If the federal government decides to embark on an aggressive building program, which we all will advocate for, they're going to look to the states to find projects that are ready to go, right? They're going to turn to the states and ask for shovel-ready projects. We saw this in 2008 when the federal government started a stimulus program and went out to the states and said, give us your shovel-ready projects. Now, it's very hard to have a shovel-ready project before you have the financing. But for states, we're doing the best that we can to have those projects ready once the federal funding becomes available. We are investing a record amount in buildings. So people often ask me in this state, is this economically prudent? I say, look, first, we must recognize the economic reality. We're all in international competition for the same businesses and the same jobs. And the locations that better serve the private market will win, whether they are in China or Europe or Utah or Texas or New York. To me, the question is, can a state not afford to grow its infrastructure and its economic capacity? Second, in New York, we have never forgotten what drove our original success. Yes, we have New York City, which is on the seacoast, and it provides a great natural harbor. But that did not exclusively drive our economic growth. 1817, the nation was looking for a way to open up the West. At that time, the West was basically west of the Mississippi. Thomas Jefferson and George Washington were planning a series of canals from the Potomac to access the West. In New York, Governor DeWitt Clinton, no relationship to Bill Clinton, said he had a plan. His plan was the ships could come into New York Harbor, go up the Hudson River, make a left at Albany, and come out across the state at Buffalo, which is on the Great Lakes, and then from the Great Lakes you can take a river down and you'll be in the quote-unquote West. Skeptics said one question: when the ships make the left at Albany, how do they get out at Buffalo? That's 400 miles, all landlocked. Governor DeWitt Clinton said, no problem. I will build a canal that goes across the state, and we will pull the barges with horses and mules. 1817, 400-mile canal. The people of the state thought it was so crazy, they tried to impeach him on the grounds of insanity. But he did it. 7 years on time and on budget, and he built the Erie Canal. And that really was the infrastructure that made New York a commercial engine. But that is the innovation. That is the daring, the ambition, the spirit that built this nation. And it still lives in every governor and in every state. As Sarah Rhodes said on an earlier panel, the line from the Kevin Costner movie was right. If you build it, they will come. The line was right. The name of the movie was wrong. It's not a field of dreams. This is a country of dreams, because we are a nation of dreamers who had the skill, the tenacity, and the courage to actually make it a reality. And we did it, and we can do it again if we just have the wisdom to work together. Thank you.